Hello, everyone, and welcome to LFC Transfer Room. I'm sorry to say we've dragged Drew out of bed at the horrible time of 7:30 in the morning. As you can see by his hair, he's dragged himself out to join us on this stream because there's one thing you can't miss on a Wednesday, and that's Kev. When Kev's on stream, everyone tunes in. Everyone's here. Mick's even here. He wasn't going to miss it for the world.
No.
Dave was trying to edge his way in, get his elbows out, and Mick was like, I'm not having any of this. So I'm joined today by Drew, Kev, and Mick. I'll start with you, Drew, because, let's get you going, seeing as you're slowly waking up at 11:30 in the morning. How are you feeling, sir?
Doing pretty good. Got my coffee going. James interrupting my siesta. This is number two. So early doors for me, but I go late. But thanks for having me. Excited to talk about this slow news day. But
it's not a slow news day. We've got some exciting things to cover. Exciting. Probably. We'll see how we go. Kev, how are you doing, sir?
All good, mate.
I've got a good view of your Pele shirt today. Or your Pele picture today.
Yeah. It's not too bad, is it? And next to the 77 Cup final shirt as well. So, no, all good, mate. Done a podcast with Richie at the start of the week, which will be coming out at the end of the week, hopefully. So, yeah, all good, mate.
And Mick, subbed in. No chance Dave was nicking it from you.
No. Got to take your chance. Come on, with Kev, when you can.
And as always, King Kev and Jen with the Gravenberg thing. As always, if you have got any questions, if there's anything that's on your mind, if you've seen anything LFC news related, please put it in the chat. We star the comments. We come back to them towards the end of the stream. And obviously, we'll go over anything that you guys want us to cover, and we'll talk about anything that you want. But we have got a bit of an agenda that we want to cover. Not an agenda in terms of we're really angry about something, but, we've done some prep. And we're going to start by talking about Thiago. There's a news going around at the moment that Thiago is potentially interested in a move to Turkey. Obviously, struggling to get fit for Liverpool. And would we be letting him go for free to go and play for them? Drew, what do you think? Do you think what would you let Thiago go for free? Do you see him going to Turkey? I see him going to Saudi, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess it depends how much money they offer him. But I remember when you had this might have been a year ago, you had the wheel of unpopular opinions or something like that. Spin the wheel for the topic or hot takes. And one of my hot takes was that Thiago was a bit of a disappointment for us. And that was solely, I got a lot of stick for it, but that was solely because of his lack of availability for us. It seems like he's been injured way more often than he's been able to play for us. And it's a shame because everyone can see how much quality he brings to the side, like how useful he is on the pitch, but also outside of the pitch, like with Bajcetic kind of taking him under his wing. I think that kind of mentor role he plays really well. He has so much experience throughout his entire career playing at top sides. And this kind of rumor, like you said, I think it would make more sense if he went to Saudi Arabia, just money-wise, because I don't know if, I know Turkey League has some prestige in the country. So I think for footballing reason, he might be interested in playing in stadiums that are packed and have a lot of following versus like a Saudi Arabia side where they only get a couple thousand people showing up to a match. So that's the only reason that I could see him choosing Turkey over Saudi Arabia is if he's interested in a payday, but still in a league that will have a lot of support and some prestige to it. But as far as letting him go, I'm kind of I would love to have him stay because I do think this is his ideal role is more of a luxury player where we can play him in the big games, but not game in, game out, which is why I think he got injured so much because we were relying on him to be a starting midfielder throughout the entire season. And just, when he was on Bayern Munich, Pep would use him in the key games where he needed him to play and just lock things up or just be that kind of extra just absolute luxury player who you can bring on and just boss the game with just his brilliant touches, the way he turns players, passes it, progresses with the ball. But So I'd like to see him stay in regards of that capacity and maybe usher through this midfield to the next stage. But at the same time, if he's going to be spending the majority of the season in like the, in the injury ward, I don't know. Like maybe that frees up in January. Maybe we get Andre in January, and that's the move. But I'm on the fence on this one. I could go either way, and I'm thankful that we're in a situation where we actually could let him go, and I think we'd be okay.
Now, Kev, Thiago's on 200 grand a week, so he's not on an insignificant amount of dough, and he is. I mean, Drew's right. I mean, Thiago is available. He's never fit, so some people don't care either way. He's available about 50% of games in a season for the last 2 years that he's been here, which means we're paying him in essence 400 grand a week to be available. You can't really build a team around someone that's intermittently available, can you?
No, but we've tried to do it with him, Keita, and Ox. And when you add the average amount of game time that those give you, in comparison to what we've brought in this season alone with McAllister, Szoboszlai, and with Endo, who played 95% of the time, then it's a huge upgrade that we've done on the midfield, although we still look light. So in comparison to time available, you're getting more with this actual midfield that we've got. It then means it gives you the alternative then to get rid of these kind of players that are only there just ad hoc at times. You know what I mean? For me, I'm with Drew with this. I could go either way with it myself. I think it would make sense to me if in January we get Andre, and then you've got a like for like replacement, someone younger who can play more game, has more game time in him than what Thiago is. And I see him going to Turkey over Saudi because he's got the opportunity of playing in the Champions League as well. So he still gets the opportunities he gets at Liverpool, but in a lesser league and more likelihood of them not worrying about him being a player and playing 50% of the time. Him alone will get fans into the stadium. When he does play, he's one of the best I've seen. It's unbelievable. The player that he is, the 360 vision he has, the way he plays in that midfield is just unreal. But you don't see enough of it, and that's the problem you've got with him, and with what we've had with other problems in that midfield, and we need to move it on. We've evolved this into a versatile midfield, and we're not necessarily going to be getting that if Thiago stays. You're getting half a player. So if we can get someone in who can or is an upgrade on his game time as well as young enough to glean the attributes of the club, then I think it makes perfect sense. But I wouldn't be letting him go for nothing. I'd be expecting some kind of nominal fee for him because he is worth that.
There's not enough talked about, Mick, the fact that, we're talking about Turkey and Thiago here, and Turkey pack out stadium. We've seen them on European nights where, English clubs have gone over there and the fans are jumping, the stadium's bouncing. This almost feels more like a football decision than it does a monetary decision. But still people just dismiss it really quickly. Do you think there's anything to it? Can you see it working?
Yeah, I think he possibly could go to Turkey. I was thinking more on the same lines. I thought he would end up in Saudi at some point because of the money aspect. And I've just looked. He's missed 409 days since signing for Liverpool, which equivalents to 86 games. He's missed in, what's that, 1, 2, 4 seasons. Three and a half seasons.
Every other game, approximately.
Yeah, so he's just not reliable, and but when he does play and he plays to the level that he can play, he is fantastic. Like, he's up there with some of the best midfielders in the world when he does play, but he's so inconsistent as well with his injuries and his performances when he does play. So, yeah, I think he possibly could go to Turkey, like Kev said, there's Champions League chance there as well. Instead of, if he still thinks he's got something in him to play at that level, or he could just go to Saudi for the money. So it depends really on what his ambitions are and where he's at in this stage of his career.
Now, and this is a question for chat as well, and I'm going to go around each of you and just sort of see where you put Thiago in our current list of midfielders. So have a bit of a think about it. If you think, for example, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones might be you've starting 3, Gravenberch's 4, Endo's 5, Harvey Elliott 6. Where would you put our midfielders, and where is Thiago within that? Now, someone like Matty would tell you that Thiago's number 1 when he's fit and available, but he's not fit and available. So where do you put Thiago on our list of midfielders in terms of priority? Because you can't rely on inavailability and you can't strategically plan for it. So I'm going to start with you, Drew, whilst people in the chat rank where they would put Thiago in our list of midfielders if he's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where is he for you?
If we're talking in just terms of availability, I put him at bottom. Maybe with Curtis Jones, because I think Kev said it before. We tried this with Ox.
So Curtis Jones 6. Elliot,
Szoboszlai, McAllister. Let's see, Gravenberch, Endo, Curtis Jones, or Elliott, maybe if you're even throwing him in there above Curtis Jones. Kasecic, yeah, that's, he gets up there. Like Thiago's at the very bottom just based on availability, because you can't, like we said, Kev said before, you can't build a team around that. Like when you're relying on Keita or Ox to be that guy you look to in the midfield and they're never available, it's just a non-starter. It doesn't make sense as far as ability goes. When, like, if we were playing Man City and talking about Thiago at his best, like we know he's going to put in an all-star performance, I'd arguably start McAllister, Thiago, and Szoboszlai, kind of McAllister in that 6, just to see how it goes. I know that'd be tricky. Maybe people would prefer Kasecic or Endo, like a more natural 6, but I think ability-wise, Thiago would be first name on the team sheet in a game like that, where everything's like on the table, like a one-off game, Champions League final. But that's assuming he's at his best, and we don't know now, because sometimes when he's come in and he's been off the pace because he's been injured for a month or 2, like he comes in and doesn't have a great game. Like he's not the quickest in terms of recovery. So if God forbid somebody counters, even though he's shown he's pretty good at tackling, if he has to run back to track back to the, back to our 18-yard box, he's not going to get there before like Nunez or Salah or Diaz even. So,
all right, Drew, let's put it this way. I've got a question, and we'll do it so that it's even for everyone. Next week, let's say we're playing in the Euro final. We're in Dublin. We're playing, irrelevant FC. Who's your starting midfield? Everyone's available, everyone's fit, everyone is in shape. Does he make the bench? Does he make the starting lineup? Is he not in the squad?
He makes the bench for me, and I'd bring him on if we needed him. But just based on everything, like even if he was per form, I think that the others have shown like it's past him. We've kind of moved past. He's on that phase where he's becoming the senior player out the door already. So I wouldn't want to put him in from the start, but we know how he can change a game.
So he's on the bench for Drew. And by the sounds of things, Drew's kicking Curtis Jones as far down the road as we possibly can. But I think he's number 3 for Klopp at the moment, if I'm honest. What about for you, Kev? Where's Thiago in this? Is he starting? Is he on the bench? Is he out the squad?
He's on the bench and he comes on, depending if we need him to come on. To have that kind of person on that bench with his kind of skill and his way of unlocking certain teams, it's undoubtedly that he would be on that bench. And the fact that you've got 9 people on that bench, it still doesn't compensate for anyone else or it stops anyone else from being on that bench. But if you've got Thiago on that bench, if it's going Pete Tong as much as it may not do. But if it does, or you want to see the game out, you bring him on and you let him control the game. That's part of your that's part of your game management. To have someone like that who can actually take control of the game and dictate how to play. Also, if you're looking for that like goal, he has to be on that bench for me. He doesn't start, but he is on that bench.
Mick, are you there with the bench as well?
Yeah, with the bench, I mean, I think bringing Thiago on in like the 60th, 70th minute, if you've got a 1 or a 2 goal lead and you're just trying to see the rest of the game out the way, you can dictate the play and control the tempo and the possession of the ball. I think he's an asset to have when he's available. But yeah, he's even if Thiago's fully fit, he's a bench player for me, just because of his ability to see a game out and literally kill the tempo of the game and control it.
And this is the thing, when he did play, like his tackles success was highest than the Liverpool midfield, his pass rate was higher than the Liverpool midfield. But I think where I'm struggling with this now is I'm thinking the way Klopp's playing this midfield is it's very mobile. It's the high press means there's a requirement for everyone to be on it straight away. And I don't know, actually, for me, if he's able to stick with the pace that Klopp's now setting for that midfield. So whilst I would probably agree, I think there's a situation where you would bring him off, bring him off the bench to impact a particular game in a particular situation. That is probably more down to experience than ability now with how we play. So I am agreeing. And I think the majority of people were saying he's between 4 and 6. Does anyone have him in the starting lineup generally, if he's available? Let's say we're playing Man City.
I think if you look at I think it comes down to the amount of games that are getting played. So in our next series of games to the international break, we played 5 games within a 2-week period. So to have the capability, and it flips on what I've just said, really. It flips on that, because if you've got someone who's available 50% of the time, it allows him to be played, and you can strategically put him in certain games and give him his game time within that 2-week period, as well as, we've got 7 games to the next international break, and then another 7 block of 7. So that may be 8, depending if we get through the cup. So it has to be. I think it's different with Thiago than what it would be with Keita and with Knox. I think because of what he provides and what he can give you when he does play, and the type of player he is, it makes it more strategic. And when you've got blocks of games so close to one another, to have the ability to bring a player like him in and strategically play him in certain games, and give, as well as giving the rest to the players that are playing week in, week out, it kind of then gives you that rotation, which is what we kind of will need in the next couple of weeks, because the next couple of weeks is going to be shown how this team is capable on playing not only in Europe, but also in the Premier League and also in the League Cup as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, in the first game against Chelsea, Thiago would have been perfect for that game, because we needed someone to take the ball in and control the tempo of that game and just get the ball out when he could, find that killer pass that everyone knows Thiago can do. And I think he's a very situational player for me. He doesn't start every game, but he can really come in certain matchups to make the difference.
Just to stick with you on that, Mick, if you're paying someone 200 grand a week, you're paying him more than your vice captain, he is your 3rd highest paid player at the club. Is he worth that for situational?
Not my money. They can afford it, so they've skimped on wages anyway, so they might as well. They got rid of a lot off the books.
But James, just to come back with you with that, if he wins the game and we get an extra 9 points for him playing those games and gets us close into the Champions League, or even, dare I say, we win the league, then it's worth the pot of gold that you pay, because you're making that money back and more because of that. That's the difference I have with Thiago than I would have with necessarily Keita and Ox. That's you've got a player that can win you the game. And that's the difference that and that sometimes is the difference. And if he can come off the bench and do that for you, and it gets you, I don't think anyone at the end of the season will be too mad that he's actually got 400 grand for just playing, well, 800 grand in a month, and he's only played twice.
Well, we're going to move on. I think for most people, we've got him on the bench.
Valid point, Kev.
It's all right if he goes to Turkey, but we prefer to keep him for a year and win us a cup. Is that general consensus? Drew's still asleep. It's fine. General consensus between you two.
Definitely not for free. Definitely not let him go for free, though.
Now, one of the really interesting stories we've had today is Max Eberl, who's obviously the manager of RB Leipzig, has been touted as a potential sporting director for Liverpool. Now, I don't know if this comes down to the succession planning for Klopp in 2 or 3 years' time, but obviously he's a manager who's brought through Guardiola, he's brought through Szoboszlai, he's brought, you go through the RB Leipzig team and the talent that's coming through, Olmo, all that talent and knowledge. Do you think there's anything to it, Drew? Do you think it's a spot? Why would you go from being a manager to a sporting director unless you've got the potential of taking over from Klopp? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. I know we've been linked with a lot of, not only Bundesliga players, but Schmadtke. It seems like we're kind of German-centric focused for roles in the team, and to see the sporting director role, as far as RB Leipzig as a club, there's a lot to admire there. They bring through great players, they have great recruitment, they sell at great value. Even another one, Nkunku, he was somebody I really wanted Liverpool to get. So I'm not sure in what capacity that shift that lateral move almost into sporting director role doesn't quite make as much sense. But maybe you're right. Maybe there is a hint of Klopp, what has he got, 2 more years on his contract now? So that's gonna come around just like that. So maybe that is a bit of future building, but it's interesting to have him kind of behind the scenes as far as that goes, rather than just continue managing at Leipzig. So I'm not quite sure what to make of it, but I'm not put off by the rumors if it just ends up being a bunch of hot air, which it might as well be. But I'm not quite sure what to make of it, but it's not a hard no for me.
Well, he's 49 years old, Kev, and obviously he's manager of RB Leipzig. They do what they do. I think they finish third pretty much every year in the Bundesliga, or potentially sometimes second, depending on what happens with Dortmund. But it brings an interesting question, which is, if he comes in as a sporting director, then he's signing players that he signed. So if he does become manager and it is succession planning, in 2-3 years' time, that kind of makes sense more than a coach coming through and not having a say. What are you thinking on this? It's interesting for me.
Well, he was at Borussia Mönchengladbach, wasn't he? As well. And there he brought in Marco Reus for £800,000 from a second division club.
He's not done too bad, has he?
He hasn't done too bad. He had to Stegen there but he was from the academy from the age of 4, I think. And then he also brought in Granit Xhaka as well. He's guided Borussia Mönchengladbach from choppy waters to a calm, established Bundesliga club. He's averaged them from 39 points a season to 52. And that's since his first full season to 2021. His position has been 7. His average position has been 7th in that time. 6 top 6 finishes. Champions League 4 times, and he managed to get out of a group that included Real Madrid, Inter, and Shakhtar Donetsk in 2021. He is established as one of the best in Germany. He then moves to Leipzig as sporting director and has been since, I think, 2022. So he's been over everything. He's come from the academy as well at Borussia Mönchengladbach. It sounds good, and if it does come off it, but we are in those waters, as Drew says, where Jorg Schmadtke, is he going to be kept on? We're hearing rumours about Julian Ward. We're hearing rumours that people want, Michael Edwards maybe about doing something. So there's going to be a lot of noise. How much of this noise is going to be worthwhile looking at? But if you're looking for someone from Germany who's established and understands that game, and if that's the way we're looking, then he would be at the top of your list based on what he's done and how he's achieved that. It then poses another question. Then do you see him in 2 years' time, as you say, that he then takes over from Klopp as manager? There's all those proverbials with it, but I don't know. I think we need to wait and see. But if you're looking for someone who you want as a sporting director, unfortunately, there's no FBref for sporting directors of a hierarchy of who's done well and achieving. But if you look what he's done at Borussia Mönchengladbach alone since 2008 to 2022, it shows what he's done at a club that not necessarily as would you put in the top six, but he's put them as close to as possible and has brought through some very good players. So, he's got that on his CV, and that goes a long way, I think, into establishing who you want. But I don't know. I think it's one to watch, though. But if you're getting rumored to him, then it gives you a bit of an excitement because he's seen that Leipzig team and he's seen that academy, and he probably knows which players to go for. So you could go in and snatch them off them. So it kind of makes sense to me.
And if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. We've got 100 of you in at the moment. I don't know how many likes we've got. I'm sure Jamie Hughes will tell us soon. But as many likes as we could possibly get on this is international break. We are powering through. But just to pick up on something Kev said, Michael Edwards and Ian Durham, I think, not Ian Durham, whatever is the ex-Liverpool thing. They've set up their own company, haven't they?
Yeah, Julian Ward. Yeah.
No, not Julian Ward, the head of data analytics.
Sorry, mate.
I think it's Durham, but I'm not certain. And they've set up their own analytics company to work with any Premier League club or any international club that they want, which is a very crude model, to be honest. But for you, Mick, if you were planning, because you do have to plan, you can't, so many clubs do it when shit hits the fan. But you do have to plan for these things. If you were to start planning for Jurgen Klopp's replacement, would you bring in a coach below him, or would you bring in a director above him? Do you either learn the method, or do you sign the players that you're going to be then responsible for in a few years' time? And please answer in the chat. Because
for me, there's a reason why he's not a manager now, and he's a sporting director. I don't think sporting directors make good managers. It's a different. And my only problem with him is he's I know he did a good job at Gladbach with some of the players that he found, but a lot of them are from the German. His record doesn't really show that he's explored much of the rest of the world in finding talent. A lot of it's German Bundesliga based.
Could say that before he came to Liverpool.
I mean, as a signing players, Klopp didn't sign our players though, does he? He wanted bloody Maximin Brandt, and we got Salah instead. So we won't listen to Klopp on transfers. So that's my only problem with him. I mean, he's got a good track. He's found some really good players, but I don't think, for me, he's not a guy who comes in and replaces Klopp as a manager. I think he can come in and do a very good job as a sporting director, but my only problem with him as a sporting director is the players who he has brought in for these clubs that he's been at are the very Bundesliga German base, so it doesn't look like he explores much. He doesn't have a vast knowledge of South America and all the rest of the world and stuff. So that's my only problem with him, but he's got to be better than bloody Jorg. So
Jorg release clause.
So I mean, anything's an improvement, but we need to get someone who's actually got someone who's actually going to look and find the correct deals and the correct players, not just explore what they know. They need to look at other things around the world and what's going on, not just sign Bundesliga players. That's my opinion on it, anyway.
And please answer in the chat. Do you think Jorg gets an extension? Do you think we sign another? Do you think we bring Julian Ward back? Who do you think we're going to bring in as sporting director? Obviously, Max Eberl's the one that's been most recently linked to us. Drew, for you, is it just basically filling a void of something that's obviously not worked so far this summer because Jorg's just paid release clauses? However, he has masterminded a midfielder rebuild, despite the fact making us look like idiots multiple times.
Yeah, maybe it's along the lines of that. Someone with more stability long term. We talked about it on last night's stream where it was like we did get embarrassed quite a bit with Lavia and Caicedo in particular. And then that long gap of not signing players is kind of anti what we're used to for Liverpool with getting deals done right away. Other than, like, we did get deals done quickly though, like Szoboszlai for McAllister. Those were the boom boom, like
really easy when you hit the release clause, I find.
That's fair. That's a fair point. But it's an interesting in regards of like replacing Klopp. I think we should just like see who's the best available at the time. Like if as far as like bringing in like an understudy, it kind of, to me, it reminds me of like the old like boot room kind of thing Liverpool had, where you just like line up the next successor, and that stopped working to an extent. I think, was it Souness and maybe even like, was it Roy Evans and Boulier, like that kind of thing. Like it never quite, like maybe that was being like the last examples, but after you get Paisley and Fagan, it just kind of teetered out, and we lost a step in the 90s and 2000s. Didn't really. So like I think we like Klopp was kind of like, once we got rid of Rodgers, it was like who's the best available, and Klopp, like it was just perfectly fell into our laps that denied United, picked Liverpool. Like I think you're looking at that point like who's the best available, not kind of grooming someone to take over the role.
I think what's interesting when you really think about it is very rarely, and I'd be interested if someone can think of an example. This would be great. And I'm coming to Kev next, so pressure on Kev. I can never think in modern football in the Premier League era of when the big man's gone and the next man up has carried on.
Okay.
Oh well, it's not you, it's Kev. No, go for it. Who have you got?
Oh, what's his name? It's gone.
Having a mare.
It was Bournemouth manager last season.
Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, he was assistant manager.
The next man up as in a really big name, who's had massive success. Has been the culture of the club. Your Alex Ferguson's, your Klopp, your
Wengers,
your enigmas leave. I mean, I can only think of a few times in history, and obviously Liverpool have been very fortunate to have a couple of them, but I can't think of many, especially in the modern era, where a big manager's left and a new manager's come in and then carried it on. Kev, did you got anything?
Brighton.
Was he that big? Was he there that long? Did he build an institution in Brighton before he left?
Took them to the next level.
That's probably the closest I can think of. There's not many. The only there's nothing that comes to mind, and it's hard and it's difficult to do because it's hard to replace those kind of people. We've done it well and successfully because they were integrated as a coach and came through the coaching, done the coaching badges, and until it was pulled down by Souness, and then we lost our way, we lost our identity, we lost the way how we wanted to play, and then we kept on snatching everything that was the new black. We were trying to go hunt down, so much so that we were happy we had Brendan Rodgers because he played tiki-taki football for the Chelsea academy. It's all about adapting that. I think there's enough managers around that but you do need to prepare for it. Unfortunately, as far as we know, he's going in 27. So we have to we need to start planning. You can't plan and leave yourself as what United did and give it to someone that they didn't even back and wanted to back. But then it comes down to the person to leave a legacy. Ferguson's legacy was all based around him. He had the opportunity of bringing Lewandowski in, but he ends up bringing in Van Persie because he wants to win the league that season and leaves the team in bad shape and poor shape. 30-old players, people coming to the end of their careers, people who should have been moved on a little bit earlier. So it's not only planning for the manager, it's planning for the team as well. And it's adapting that team to ensure that the legacy does continue, because without both, the legacy does stop and halt it, and then it's an issue then trying to bring that back. But there's people there that I can see that it could be. The Zerbi would be one that would be on my list. Alonso would be another. If you want to go down you can look at Pep Linders, but I doubt that would happen. But I think some of the training people that are with Klopp may all go, and that's one thing you don't want either. You want those, at least some of them, to say the nutritionist coach, ideally you'd want to keep, because she's the best in their field. The fitness coaches, if you can keep up with some of them, and some of the coaching staff on the first team. So it's not only about the manager, it's also about the attributes he brings in, the training side of things that you need to keep some of for that to continue, which is what is the essence of, and is what every club's trying to adhere to. It's not just about the manager, it's about the other things in the background that we don't necessarily see, but as part of the coaching staff that are integral to that part of it for me.
Now, Mick, obviously Frank Lampard.
I don't know off my chair. I'm not sitting there. That's why I laughed.
Paul makes a good point. We talk about what about Pep Linders. Kev makes a really interesting point where you talk about all the staff and everyone being a unit and keeping that unit together. I think one of the success stories I saw was when Guardiola, Enrique came through. He was the manager of Barcelona after, and they carried on their momentum and thing until it all fell. I mean, they did have Messi. Let's not, hide that fact. But I think Gerrard's ruined any chance of getting the Liverpool job now. I think Xabi Alonso probably looks like the next cultural manager, the person who knows what this club means, like who's out there. And then obviously people have got their favourites. We've got De Zerbi and stuff like that mentioned in the comments. Klopp gets hit by a bus tomorrow. Bad day for everyone.
Jesus, don't say that. Frank Lampard,
don't worry, the bus is okay. He's only injured it in 4 or 5 different places. The bus will be fine, but Klopp's going to miss the next game because he swore at the bus driver, and now he's going through all the probationary services of getting deported by the UK government. Who do you bring in?
Thoughts about that? If it's only one game, it's Pep Linders, then, isn't it? If it's for a foreseeable future, then I really like what Xabi Alonso's done at Leverkusen. I think the way they play is fantastic. It's really good, attractive football, and it's good football. De Zerbi's another one, but I really see him as the next guy to succeed Pep at Man City.
Probably be the next Chelsea manager, to be honest.
Yeah, because I don't rate Poch anyway. I think he's overrated. I mean, there's plenty out there, but I don't like thinking about it because you just don't.
We don't like thinking about it. But
I mean, I think you've got to play. You've got to have some sort of plan in place, though. You can't just get to the end of the 2026 season and go, "Oh crap, what do we do now?" They've got to speak to someone in a year in advance and say, "Right, listen, we like what you're doing, blah blah blah." Maybe look at you when Klopp goes and stuff. They've got to get someone and then talk to them first and lay the Liverpool charm on them, and then hopefully when Klopp decides to go, then they can come in. But if they just end up getting, I mean, if I see Steven Gerrard as Liverpool manager, I'm going to be fuming. As much as it pains me to say, but he's just not good enough. And he's going to Saudi as a manager, then yeah, whatever.
I think I'm on we need to do everything we possibly could to get Xabi Alonso. at this moment in time, because if you think about the mentality of the fans, if Xabi Alonso carries on his development journey as he is and has some good European nights, he'll have some bad days and stuff like that. But I think if he carries on developing as he is, he's the one who gets the culture of the fans, connects with us straight away, and no one would turn around and go, who's this clown? I think the problem we would have if, let's say, Pep Linders took over would be people would be like, well, he wasn't good enough in Holland. He had to come back to us, blah, 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 blah. I think there'd be more negativity in the fan base than there would be if someone like Xabi came in.
And plus, it'd be Klopp's philosophy as well that he'd play. Yeah. And he wouldn't do it as well as Klopp.
But in positive news, Drew, there's been a lot of, Germany have been trying their best. Is there any interest in Klopp? Is there any interest in Klopp doing the Germany job? Oh, please, Klopp, come to Germany. Klopp's agent shut it down. Klopp shut it down, saying he's never walked away from a contract in his life, and he's not going to start now. And that was before the German manager lost his job. So it doesn't look like there's any chance the German national team are getting hold of him. And let's face it, who would want to manage the German national team at the moment?
Yeah, it just doesn't really make sense for him to end his contract at Liverpool, because that's not like an opportunity that's ever going to go away for him. Like, if he wants it in 10 years, if he wants it in 15 years, like, that job has his name on it whenever he decides it's time. So it's not like a situational thing where, kind of like Liverpool, where it's like the opportunity, he had to leave his sabbatical early, had to cut his vacation with the family short to join Liverpool. The window was only that short. It's like the Germany job, there will be cycles. Like, the managers will come and go, and he's going to have more than one or two opportunities in the future to take the job. So I think Germany was just like struggling, losing to Japan. They've had a horrible last 3-4 years. It's been just disaster. So I can see why they really want Klopp, because that would be huge. And if anyone could get that team clicking, it's probably him. But it just doesn't make sense. He's done so much with the rebuild of Liverpool. Like, it's not the time for him to step out the door and give it to someone else and say, like, here, you pick up what I just reformed. It's like, I think he's excited by the Liverpool position, and make it short. The opportunity is always going to be there for him moving forward. He doesn't have to take it.
Now we're going to move on to our final news story, and then we're going to get to the questions. I've seen some of you put some questions in the chat. I have started them. We will come back to them. Ben, I've seen your question about our midfield and stuff like that, so we will come to your questions at the end. But we're going to finish by, unsurprisingly, I think, after signing a Japanese player and being linked to Matoma as well, and there's another Japanese player that we're linked to, because journalists are lazy by the seams of things. But this guy, Yukinari Sugawara, said that wrong, is a sort of multifunctional defender, right back primarily, played right wings every so often, Kev. He's good distribution, he's good at attacking with the ball. Potentially a good backup right back. But it just doesn't feel strong enough, the link for me.
No. And then you look at his tackles, interceptions, blocks, clearances, and aerials won, and he's 5'8". His tackles, 23 percentile. Yeah, 3%. Do you know what? It's mad, isn't it? You bring one player in from a certain part of the world, and next minute it's like we're linked with everyone. And yeah, he had a good game against Germany. Part of the team, and assisted in the 4-1 win. So he looks more of an attacking kind of right back, but it gets away and diffuses the problem we've got there. Is that we need someone who can defend, not going forward. Going forward's not where we've got the issue. The issue is someone who's willing to stay there and actually act like an actual defender and help out and assist, so that it then alleviates Trent, who does that even better than most people, to do his job even better. So it's I don't know. it's a bit like just putting a pillar there and going, yeah, you just stay there, and we'll just put you there, big concrete pillar. There you go. You just stay there. We'll, see what happens. If the ball hits you and goes out, that's fine. It doesn't make sense to me. He's 5'8". He's too small for me as a right back. It's great what he does going forward, but I want someone who can actually defend rather than someone who's willing to get up that field. I think we've got enough in the attack. We've got enough fruition there. We've got enough. We're abundantly clear that our issues are defending, not attacking.
Mick, would you rather sign a concrete pillar than a Japanese right back?
Yeah, it'd just be like, oh, Trent's not getting the blame now. The new lad's getting the blame because he's literally exactly the same player as Trent. He's very good at going forward, but can't defend. So all you're doing is you're not doing anything. You're just adding another problem in the same position. You need someone who can, a concrete pillar, who can just get the ball and just pass it to the midfielder. That's all you want. I don't understand why we're not linked with someone who has more of a 3% tackle rate and who's taller than 5'8", who can actually win a ball when it's played into the box and he has to defend.
So, Drew, do you want to sign a 5'9" concrete pillar and just put it in the corner? Or would you be happy, with someone with some legs and that can maybe kick a ball every so often?
Yeah, I'm not sold on this one. I'm just thinking back to when Mitrovic, I know he's moved on, but Mitrovic towered over Trent in that first game of the last season. And I can only imagine we already have Trent being targeted by most teams, but if you have a person who's taller than 5'8" as your striker, just have him hang up on that side of the pitch. But I don't know. I'm happy with Joey Gomez filling in at right back. I think I've been one of his guys who stayed faith with him, and I think it was always bizarre that he could put in a game like he did last season against Man City and then just completely drop off. But he's had a good little mini stretch, and I still think he can do a job. So, and I think he's more than adequate to cover for Trent at right back. Hopefully we just don't have that center back crisis if that's necessary.
For me, I think Virgil started quite well and Joe started quite well, but last season they were both coming back from serious injuries. And I think both of them look like they're trusting their bodies a lot more at the moment. I think the only problem I've got for Virgil at the moment is his national team are just all over him, and it would be better for him to just retire and walk away, but I don't think he will.
They're ruthless, aren't they? The Netherlands journalists and the national team.
Yeah. His own journalists referring to him as not as our country, as just that team's fault. It was really weird. But as we're in the last 12 minutes of the stream, we're going to go to some of your questions. We're going to answer some of your questions, and we're going to see what these guys think in regards to some opinions and stuff like that. So we're going to start with you, Kev. Kev, and we're going to start with: is Gravenberch the new number 6? Do you think that's where he's going to play for us, or do you think he's going to play where Szoboszlai plays, and we're going to play that sort of Curtis Jones, McAllister, almost double pivot type movement? Where do you see Gravenberch playing? Is he the new 6?
I don't see him as a 6. I'd see him playing as an 8. I'd see him playing as a box-to-box, and I think we may play with McAllister as the 6 and Gravenberch and Szoboszlai possibly as the 2/8. I'd like to see what happens with Gravenberch. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but let's give him time. Let's see what he can come in and do. I haven't seen enough of the lad, to be honest. But high praise from what he did at Ajax, and I was made up that he actually stayed behind from international duty and decided to come in and consolidate his place at Liverpool. So it shows that he's got the mentality to do well at the club. The way this midfield is, I think the word that's missing is versatility, because you need to be versatile in this midfield. you may start playing in one position, but you may be ended up as the 6 at some point in the game. So you need to be able to be versatile and play that. If he does, then that's fine. He's got the physicality for me, 6'3". He's got the presence in there, which is what you need in there. So by all means, let's see what he can do. I'm excited. I'm hoping to see him at some point on Saturday. So it's it'll be great to see what he can do. Is he going to be the overall answer? I don't think he is. I think the main one for the 6 is going to be McAllister because how well he's played that this season. It's unbelievable how versatile that player is, and it's a shame that we don't see him in his normal 8 position because Jesus, him feeding in the likes of Salah and Nunes from where he is now is great. But imagine what it'd be if he was playing further up the pitch without that responsibility. It's great, but I think we've got a perfect, an all right 6 in McAllister. But if he come in and takes that role, then frees him up again to go on the attacking sense, which is we've got abundance of. So hopefully he can do it. Let's see what happens. What do you think, James?
I think that's why Klopp's gone with Jones and McAllister, because I think those two can rotate their position and McAllister can go forward. I unlike Drew, who would have Jones as far down the pecking order as possible. I think in the midfield we've got at the moment, those two work as a rotation, depending on which way Trent is and stuff like that. And I think Szoboszlai he's further forward, isn't he? And he starts the high press from the midfield perspective. But what we saw back end of last season was the pressing stats with Jones and Trent when they started it were really high and really successful. So I think when you add Szoboszlai into that and you add McAllister into that, I think it'll be those 3. And I think Gravenberch is going to come in probably and replace McAllister against Wolves, because obviously McAllister's had a little bit more travelling to do and playing last night. So, yeah, that's what I think. Mick, do you trust Jorg with the Salah funds? And we're saying Salah funds like we've already sold him, like he's going to Saudi in January or at the end of next year. But I think most of us feel like Salah's going at the end of the year. Do you trust Jorg? Or are you like, well, no, I would rather someone else comes in and we make a change and we do a few bits and pieces like that?
Absolutely not. Unless there's 6 players out there. I was going to say, unless there's 3 or 4 players with good release clauses, then he's the man for the job. He knows what he's doing there. No, I mean, like, Endo was valued at 6.5 million. We paid 16 million for him. That's 10 million over the ask of what he's actually valued at. The Szoboszlai, it's not hard to activate release clause. McAllister had one. Gravenberch, the price was already set by Bayern Munich. He didn't really have to negotiate much of a price. They told him what they wanted, not what they were going to sell him. No, nothing more, nothing less. So no, I wouldn't trust him to actually bring in the players that I think we need. I think he. Don't get me wrong. Szoboszlai's a very good player, and but he only activated release clause. But at the end of the day, he has still brought him in. But with the whole 2, I trust him with about 10 million of it to sign a squad player.
Okay.
At best. And then
so
give the rest,
you want FSG to just spend 10 million of a £150 million salary?
No, just only give Jorg 10 million. That's all he's allowed to spend.
Okay.
Anything else, it gets given to someone else, like the dinner lady or something. Anything.
I can't wait till FSG come out and say, well, unfortunately, we could only give Jorg 10 million. That's all we trusted him with. And your rage. Now, Drew, we're going to go to this question here, which is obviously me and Kev just talked then about how Jones and McAllister are sort of playing off with each other in that midfield. So when Bajcetic is back, is he a backup 6, or is that actually he first choice because he drives forward, he plays everything that Jones does as well? Would him and McAllister actually be more defensively secure than a Jones and Bajcetic? What do you think?
I don't think he comes back in right away as like first choice number 6, but I think he'll get the chance to get into the team with how many games we're playing. And I think it's up to him at that point whether or not he takes his chance, because I think he has all the talent and ability to make himself the first choice in that role. But I don't think his age right now, combined with how much depth we have in midfield, puts him as number 1 for that spot. But I do believe he'll be given the chance, and I think he's got the temperament and the hunger to take that chance and really give Klopp like a headache for who he's going to play, because he's that good. And I think it's on the cusp of him breaking into the team and then just making that spot his, and almost Andy Robertsoning it for like the left back position when he came in and completely took Moreno out of the picture. I think Fitz just has that ability, because he's also the only, besides Endo, he's the only one who's really shown that he can completely own that role. We know McAllister is more likely further up the pitch being his best role. Besidzic, I know, is a number 8 or has played that, but he started as center back, and he's already. I think if he could claim a spot as his own, I think that's really the kind of attitude that you should want as a player, is if you can cement yourself as a first choice player in the Liverpool team, and that's your goal. Like that could be extremely powerful if he just adapts all his focus on taking that role and making it his, because it's up for grabs.
And I think this is a good question to end with you all and end with you on chat, which is we've got 3 midfielders who are on the verge of breaking through, and really claiming a role, as Drew said. You've got Bajcetic, you've got Elliott, and you've got Jones. Now, only one of them's really going to claim a potential starting spot or will sign a replacement. And so it could be neither. So you've got those 3 players or none. In chat, which player do you think, as we run into January, is going to claim a starting spot in this Liverpool 11? Who do you think is going to sort of really stake a claim and get their position nailed down? From what you've seen, because Elliott's looked great when he's come on. Jones looks good when he's on the pitch. Obviously, everyone's waiting for Bajcetic to come back, and he's going to be back soon. So, which player do you think will nail down their starting berth in our starting 11? You can say none. Put it in chat. Kev, start with you. And I don't want a long explanation. This is a short answer. So,
I see 2.
And the reason why.
I see 2. I see Elliott. And I see Curtis Jones because of the form that they've shown, and it'll give them the confidence. And you'll see that in the next couple of weeks with the amount of games we play.
So, Kev's fenced it. Mick, are you going to fence it and give me multiple names as well?
I'm going to give you one name. I'm going to say Gravenberch. Purely because I don't think Gravenberch has been brought in as a player who will only... when McAllister and Szoboszlai being rested. I think Gravenberch has been brought in to play the deeper role, and he'll be moulded into that role. Because technically, he's playing in a double pivot, because Trent, when he comes inside. And in his second season for Ajax in the Champions League, that's where he predominantly played, in that deeper 6 role for Ajax with Frankie de Jong. So I think Gravenberch will nail his position down by January in the first 2.
Okay, so Kev's gave me 2. Mick's gave me a name that wasn't available. Drew, Jurgen Klopp's going to come out of retirement and take it.
Bajcetic for me. I think that's the only spot that's up for grabs, and I don't see Szoboszlai or McAllister, Gravenberch, and those other midfield roles giving up their spot for Elliott or Jones unless they're injured. So Bajcetic is the only one.
How about you, James?
You're
not getting off of this lately. You're not getting out of this one.
For me, from what I've seen, I would go with Curtis Jones. I think his natural play fits how this Liverpool team is currently playing. I think Harvey Elliott has got huge potential, but I think we would need to change a little bit how we play because of his size and build if he was to play a midfield role. I think Bajcetic needs this season to get his fitness back up because it's been a pretty big injury. And when we look at Van Dijk and we look at Gomez and how long that's taken them to bounce back, it's been a little while. The only person who's really playing with some momentum and some arrogance that he's needed to play for a while is Curtis Jones, because if you think about, he's won the under-21 championship, World Cup, whatever it was. And then he was scoring goals towards the end of the season. So I'm going to go with Jones. I think he's the one that's emerging and should be able to take a position. And only Jones could lose it, really. The other two, Jones would have to lose it for the other two to take it, in my view. Same for Gravenberch. You'd have to lose it for Gravenberch to take it.
Can I add on Jones? The only problem I have with Jones is injury proneness.
Yeah.
And I think that will ultimately be his downfall at Liverpool.
Yeah. And that's what will lose it for him. If he can stay fit, he'll claim it. But if he does get these little knocks and Gravenberch comes in and he's more consistent, he's more available, he may take it. The perk of Elliott is he's never injured. But we don't play to something that naturally fits his attributes. But if Salah goes in January and we don't get the right replacement, I think Elliott could play that role. And I actually think, not as a goal scorer, because I don't think Elliott is a natural goal scorer, but I think he could create a right-wing role that gets the number 9 scoring goals, left, right and centre. So he could take it, but yeah. And with Drew's dog making a appearance, someone who gets up later than Drew, it seems, at midday he's dragging himself out of bed. That's pretty much it. I want to thank very much Drew, Kev and Mick for joining us. This has been Kev TV on LFC Transfer Room on a Wednesday. Thank you guys for all your questions and getting involved in the chat. Thankfully, football's back this weekend, so we'll have a lot more to talk about next week, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care.